Welcome back to another video. So right now I'm just out on a easy 10k run. If you told me this time last year that 10k's would be easy, I would have laughed, but now because of consistent training over the year, I can call 10k's easy. So it is Sunday, which is when I'd usually do my long run, but I've already done 30k's for the week, so my total volume at the moment is 40, so I'm just going to do a 10k and that will bring me right to 40. And over the next 5 weeks, because I've just come off a deload week, I'll be working my way up to 50k's per week, and then I'll have another deload. So just gradually building that volume up, ready for my marathon in June. All right, we are 1.8k's in. We'll have another chat soon. So one thing that I've learned this year is that you have to build your volume up slowly, otherwise you end up risking an injury like I did at the start of the year. So in terms of my weeks at the moment, I have 4 easy runs and 1 speed run, and then usually a long run on Sunday too. And that's how I'm going to program it right up until the marathon. All right, 3.4k's in, just going to take it nice and easy for the rest of the run. Alright, so that wraps up my 10k run. Feels a little bit different. I usually run in the mornings and it's about 6 o'clock at night, so it was actually quite nice. But we're going to do something different for dinner and have some homemade pizzas. We usually try to keep it pretty healthy, but we've got some family over, so I think we're going to splash out, have some pizza and maybe watch a movie. That's what Christmas is all about. So anyway, let's get on with the night. K's in, 3k's to go. I think I just swallowed a fly. All right. "43 minutes, just over 7k's. It's the first run of the week done. Nice easy run. Ended up clouding over a little bit, so it wasn't too hot, but I did sweat a lot. So yeah, anyway, gonna go and have some dinner now, and then we'll have a little bit of a chat, a little bit more about what running has done for me in 2024 and how, as corny as it sounds, I feel like it's changed my life a little bit, or a lot. But we'll have a chat soon. Hello. So for the second half of this video, I wanted to do a bit of a sit down chat, a wrap up on 2024 and what running has done for me throughout the year. So I've learned a lot over the year, and I started off the year with an injury. I learned that even though I was going to the gym a lot, I was actually quite weak around my hip, and I ended up getting a hip injury. And through rehab and through going to the physio, I learned that I needed to work on some areas on my hip if I wanted to be a better runner and if I wanted running to be sustainable for me. I also learned that it was really important not to ramp up volume too quick, because that's when injuries start to come about, because obviously your body isn't used to that load. So you need to make sure you don't ramp up volume too quickly and you give your body enough time to adapt to the loads that you're putting it under. After my injury and when I started running again, I realized how much I actually loved running. Something about just being able to put my shoes on at home and head out the door and go for a run was very satisfying for me. I also feel so good after I run too. So sometimes I'll be having a bad day and then I'll lace up my shoes and head out for a run and I'll feel so much better afterwards. So that's been a big thing for me. Obviously there's a lot of physical benefits for running, but I think the mental benefits are huge as well. And I've noticed a huge difference in myself with the running that I've been doing and my just overall happiness and how I feel throughout the day, knowing that I've done something hard. No matter what my day ends up being like, I've done something challenging each day or almost every day. And I think with running, compared to a lot of other sports, there's very little friction. You definitely have to do what you love, and if you love other sports, that's absolutely fine. But for me, it's been something that there's very little friction with. So I can come home from work, lace up a pair of shoes and go out for a run for half an hour, and then I've done my exercise or I've done what I wanted to do for a day, and then I can get back to doing whatever it is I need to do. This year, I also did my first running prep, which was for my first half marathon. The prep itself ended up being about 10 weeks. And like I said, this was the first sort of proper prep I've ever done, and I learned how much of a mental battle it was. One of the biggest things for me is I wanted to do more volume. I wanted to run more. I wanted to run every day as much as I could, but I knew that my body wouldn't be able to handle it. And obviously I got injured in the beginning half of the year by running too much, so I knew that I couldn't do that again. So I only ran 4 days a week, and this was a struggle for me mentally, but I stuck to it and I didn't get any injuries. I didn't get any overuse injuries coming up. I had a little bit of shin splints, but they actually started to get better closer to the half marathon because my body was handling the loads a lot better. Another big thing I learned during this prep was to really run my easy runs slow. A lot of people say it online, but I never really listened, or actually I did listen, but I thought that the pace that I was running was slow, but my heart rate was actually quite a bit too high, and it was sort of flicking over from aerobic training to anaerobic threshold training. So I didn't build my aerobic base as good as I could have, and now learning from that, building towards this full marathon next year in June, I'm really making sure that those easy runs are slow. And for me, that's a 6 minute per K pace. For you, that might be different and you need to find that, but I'm making sure that heart rate is at least below 160, preferably in 140 beats per minute, somewhere around there. Another thing that I did during the prep was reduce the amount of strength training sessions that I'd done for as long as I can remember. Maybe the last 6 years I've been doing a push-pull leg split, a 6-day split, so I train at the gym 6 days a week. And this was the first time in, like I said, maybe 6 years that I had changed from a 6-day split to a 4-day split. And even sometimes I would do a 3-day split, so 2 upper body sessions and 1 lower body session. This just gave my body a little bit more time to recover from my running, because obviously I was ramping up the volume leading to my half marathon. I was putting a little bit less emphasis on strength training, but just making sure that I was doing those exercises, especially leg exercises, to maintain that strength in my lower body. And then the upper body sessions were in there. They weren't too taxing on the body. And as I got closer to the half marathon, especially the week before, I reduced that volume and intensity a little bit just to make sure I was fresh and ready to go for race day. And with all this, I also filmed my first prep series on YouTube, which is something that I wanted to do forever. I've been watching YouTube throughout most of my life, or teenage life. I started watching Casey Neistat when I was at high school, and I absolutely loved his videos and I always wanted to make them. And this year is pretty much, or even I don't think I was even consistent at the start of the year, so this last half of the year is the most consistent I've ever been with it, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. And yeah, I made a prep series on my first half marathon, so definitely go back and watch it if you haven't. So with this prep, It also meant I entered in my first half marathon, and I did complete it as well. The course did run a little bit long, so the night before we actually had a lot of rain, and that meant they had to change the course. We ended up doing a 10k loop twice, but they made it a little bit longer, but actually too long, and the half marathon ended up being 22 k's rather than 21. I did the 21 k's according to my watch in an hour 45, which was my goal time. My goal pace was 5 minutes per k, which I got, but I had to do a little bit longer, so my total time was an hour 50, which is still my goal pace with 5 minutes per k, but obviously an extra k meant the official time was an hour 50. But hopefully I'll change that official time this year, but I was still very happy with how I went. I did also learn what not to do on the day. No matter how much you run, you just can't replicate what it's like on race day. So I definitely started off a bit too fast, and I got caught up with everyone else's pace, and I looked down at my watch and I was running a 4 minute per k pace, and I knew that I needed to back it off. And even when I backed it off, I was still running a 4:30, and by 10 k's my legs were just full of lactic acid. They were burning up, so I pulled right back to about a 5 minute 40 or 5 minute 50 for a couple of k's, and then I dropped that back down again to just over 5 minutes per k pace. So I did flip-flop from one end to the other and didn't run 5 minute per k paces the whole race, which is definitely what I want to change when I do my full marathon, because if I run too fast for that, I'm definitely not going to be able to do the full 42 k's. So I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I have a race under my belt before I do this full marathon. All these things that I did wrong is actually going to end up making me better in the long run, and hopefully I'll be able to stick to the plan, stick to the goal pace, and get my 3 hours 30 full marathon, or sub 3 hours 30. And from the half marathon, I've started to build towards the full marathon, and like I said, it's a big aerobic base building block, so I'm making sure that my heart rate on my easy runs is between 130 and 160 beats per minute, and that's the build that I'm doing at the moment, and I'll start ramping up volume as I get closer to the full marathon. And with that, I can't wait for what 2025 has in store for me.